Area League of Women Voters and the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce are nonpartisan. Therefore, this event is a nonpartisan event. On November 2nd, voters will choose one candidate for the Summerville Council District 1. This is a 4-year term. And now I'm going to introduce our two candidates. We'll start in alphabetical order. Mr. Aaron Brown, if you will just raise your hand, and you have got yourself highlighted. We appreciate that. And the other candidate is Mr. Don Johnson. You have yourself available as well. Okay, let's go over the rules a little bit, and this is how the format is going to go. We have the two candidates, Mr. Brown and Mr. Johnson. They will each be given a 60-second time for introductory statements. I'll rotate the order of candidates with each question. Then I'm going to ask questions from the League and the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce that were developed and submitted in advance to us. If there is time, questions that the audience has submitted to the host via the chat may be asked. No questions will be asked that are directed to only one candidate or would ever be of a personal nature. The candidates have 90 seconds to respond to the questions. The candidates then may make an additional 60-second rebuttal after the other candidate has responded. A rebuttal, as a reminder, is an opposing argument or contradiction to what another candidate has said. And if you have that after you've answered the question the other person has, and if you want a 60-second rebuttal, please just raise your hand and I'll do my best to keep my eyes on the screen. Each candidate, after the questions are asked and answered, each candidate will then have 60 seconds for a closing statement. We'll ask that the candidates use closing statements to summarize the issues they've already discussed and their vision for the position they seek. Our timer, who is Natanya Miller, if you want to raise your hand, there you go. She will signal the candidates when they have 30 seconds left and then when the time is up. Perfect. And if you will allow me, I understand we can each go a second or two over the stop sign, but if it appears that we're going too long, I will have to interrupt you. So if you would just know that in advance. Okay, let's begin with our 60-second introductory remarks. Mr. Brown, you may go first.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I will try to stay in line with what you explained. On my opening statement, you know, why am I running? I want to continue the quality of life that defines Somerville and make Somerville so desirable as a place to live and work. While many municipalities suffer accusations of police brutality, citizens unrest, poor performing public schools, rundown neighborhoods, etc., Somerville has avoided all these problems and more, and I want to continue the Somerville that I love. I'm very proud to be a member of the governing body that makes decisions that benefit our citizens. During my tenure on council, I've worked with the council and the mayor to truly have a council form of government. We do not have a strong mayor form of government. We have a council form of government. And I think that's very important because it forces the majority votes rule. The mayor has 1 vote and each council member has votes. In our case, has 7 votes, and it takes 4 votes to have a deciding vote.
All right. All right. Mr. Brown, the stop sign went up. I'm not sure if you looked up when it was there or not, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, if you'd like to have your 60 seconds.
Yes, I am Don Johnson, and I'm running for your next council member. This is truly a great city, a great town. The town has a lot of great people in it. Like a church, the church is designed for members, for people who aren't their own members. The council should be the same. We should be reaching out to those people who are disenfranchised and bring them back into that system. Upon election, I will do just that. I will reach out to the people who don't feel like they have a voice and offer them a voice in their city government. Because after all, this is a body for the people, by the people, and of the people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Now we'll begin with some questions. I will start with you, Mr. Johnson, as in reverse order. What do you feel is the most critical issue facing Somerville, and how would you address it?
Well, I think the infrastructure is one of the most important aspects of the need in Somerville. Through reaching out to our people, building relationships with the county government, the state government, neighboring Berkeley County, we can find solutions to fix these problems. The problem didn't happen overnight. And I'm not going to sit here and promise you that I can change things overnight, but I'm going to do my due diligence to find the answers to bring to the town of Somerville through the examples of, say, next in subdivision, and the relationships that I have with our state leaders and the county leaders. There's no denying that the relationships between the town and the county are strained. And I think that I can fix that problem by reaching out and bringing those people in.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Brown, your answer to the same question. What do you feel is the most critical issue facing Somerville, and how would you address it?
I think the most critical issue facing the town of Somerville right now is with the fast growth that we've had, we're having a place for everybody in town. For instance, and we're building a lot of homes and they're getting more and more expensive, and we need to put some emphasis on affordable housing so that we can avoid the problems of some of the neighboring municipalities like the city of Charleston and Mount Pleasant. And so I've been pushing the council to, and I hope starting in the new election cycle, to start putting more emphasis on affordable housing. It's important that a town provides what everybody needs. And if we keep escalating with the price of the homes, we could price ourselves out of fulfilling the needs of everybody. The housing problem can be a benediction and a malediction. We're dealing with some issues of flooding in some areas where there's been newer homes built and the older areas are facing some flooding. We've got some flooding issues on Highway 78 downtown. Somerville was a small town for a very, very long time. And then all of a sudden we have an explosion of growth. And as we build and we cut trees, we increase the stormwater problems. So we have a plan going forward into the new year to start to address these problems. We've hired a new stormwater manager,
okay,
and we're making some progress on that regard.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. As in reverse order, Mr. Brown, you are next up with this question. There are areas in the United States where residents and industries have left in large numbers and tax bases have been eroded. What needs to be done in Somerville to ensure that this does not happen?
Well, I think as far as that's concerned, we've been pretty harmonious on the council to avoid that type of situation. As far as the tax situation, we've rolled back the taxes, actually lowered the tax millage twice in the last 6 years or so. And we're trying to make the town attractive, but at the same time affordable, so that we do not create taxes that put us in a bad situation where people lose their properties due to taxes. So taxation is always a problem. And as we are building, one of the problems for the town of Somerville is we're considered a residential community. So we try to take care of our citizens on the lowest tax rate, which is 4%. In rental houses, we get 6%. And of course, industry, we get 10.4%. Somerville is unfortunate in this regard. We don't have hardly any industry at all. We've got the sawmill branch on Maple Street, the sawmill mill there. It's been there for years, but it's small, and thank God. It was just bought by a new company in Sephora, and they're going to add some new jobs and put in $30 million. So we have to have a balance of tax revenue coming in from the lowest tax base to the highest to make a city work.
All right, thank you. Mr. Johnson, I'll repeat the question. There are areas in the United States where residents and industries have left in large numbers and tax bases have been eroded. What needs to be done in Somerville to make sure this does not happen?
Well, the tax base cannot continue the rate of incorporating businesses that are not in the city property or town limits of Somerville. What seems to me that that's the one way that the town has been increasing the revenue. Now, I think that it should be an equal and fair playing field for all people going forward. The post-pandemic, we're still in the pandemic, but giving business tax breaks to those people who are in the town already, and not just people who are attracting new businesses as the council would do. There should be no differentiation between the two, new businesses and current businesses. I think if we eliminated the business license, we could attract more lower economic businesses to our town. Very similar to what Berkeley County does. I think that our business licenses are way too high to attract new businesses. But that's one way that we can ensure that the town of Somerville continues growing its population by attracting those small businesses, minority-owned businesses, otherwise, that can boost the economy by bringing in new jobs, new people to live here, and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson, we'll start with you on the next question. What can be done about the traffic congestion in Somerville?
Well, the traffic congestion is a tough question to tackle, as it's been going on for years now. I don't think anybody has a true grasp of the traffic that we are facing. Seems like we continue to think 2-3 years out, where we should be thinking 20-25 years out. The building property, I'm all for growth, but there should be a reasonable development agreement in place that treats each property on its own merit. There's special considerations that need to be made for infrastructure building. Not all it's not a cookie cutter program. Some should have infrastructure to roads and drainage ditches. Some don't need that. But we should be looking at the businesses that are coming here and developing in our area. One thing about it is I will be a fair and impartial judge on that. If they think that, if I think that they need to do something, I'm not going to vote for them to come here just because they want to come here, which will be a fresh change.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, the same question. What can be done about the traffic congestion in Somerville?
Well, the traffic can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. The traffic brings jobs, it brings businesses, it brings additional taxes, particularly if you can get the mix of taxes that you want from commercial and residential and industrial. We recently hired a town engineer. I think he's been on 6 months or so to look at our traffic situation. This individual has a degree in traffic engineering. And we recently had a problem on Parkwood and Shepherd. There was a lot of traffic, the road bans, and people were moving around quickly. So he looked at it and he suggested that we do a full-way stop. And we are hoping that that'll alleviate some of the problems. You have to be smart about traffic because traffic is necessary if a town is going to grow. We also last year before last, we started syncing the lights, the traffic lights on Main Street, to have the traffic lights sort of talk to one another to know when to move the traffic, when to move the traffic was slow, so we wouldn't hold up a whole stream of traffic when it wasn't necessary. We've also been doing some things as far as opening up additional routes to get like to I-95. I think we're all aware that we've opened up the Maple Street extension. We haven't finished it yet, but it is taking a lot of traffic off of Main Street. And then we open up the Bear Island Road, which is a shortcut. We're also looking at opening up 9th Street.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, I'm going to have to stop you. Your time was up. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
I appreciate your answer. And we'll jump right back. You have just a second or two for the next question. Mr. Brown, why are you running for Council District number 1?
I'm running for council because I want to continue to see Somerville remain as it is, attractive place for people to live, to raise their children, to go to school. During the period of time I've been on council, we've really made Somerville a better place to live, and I think that's one of the reasons it's so attractive. One of the areas in my district and the Brownsville community, which was an older part of Somerville, where we used to have the old Alston High School before integration, we've really lifted that area of town up. We have brought in sidewalks. We've built a new school over there, Alston Bailey Elementary School, named for Miss Bailey, who was the last principal of the elementary school. We've given people, we've done some things with home repair. We work with the United Methodist Church and Somerville Baptist Church, and we've been able to do getting some money to the Council of Governments to help people rehab their homes and lift their spirits so they have a better place to live. So we've done a number of things. We have, the first time in the history of Somerville, a major recreational building called the Rollins Edwards Center, which is named for an African-American man who was my predecessor on council. We also got a part of the old Holiday Inn Drive named for the first Black state trooper who lives here in Somerville, Tillman Millhouse. So we're seeing a lot of positive things. I'd like to keep those things going.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, the same question to you. Why is it that you're running for Council District number 1?
Well, I'm running for council because first and foremost, I love this town, and I want to see only the best for the citizens and the town as we go forward. I would like to thank Councilman Brown for his many years on the council, but I think it's time for a change. Transparency is a big issue. I still don't understand why Rebecca Vance was terminated. And I think a lot of people in town would like to know that. As a pastor, as a veteran, I believe in transparency and trust and respect. I don't think that Rebecca should have been up there accepting the presidency of the Municipal Association on the day that she got terminated on a special called council meeting. I think that's wrong. Why would we set her up for a failure like that? And this is just one example of many that I feel that our council is missing the mark on. So I'm running because I don't agree with the direction some of the part of the council is taking. That's just one example. But I want to be part of the solution, and I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines and watching things happen in our town. I want to be an active participant in our city government, and because I love this town and I love the people, and it's time that the council stop dividing itself between the town and the council, the county, and become a unified body that represents everybody, not only District 1, but the entire town itself.
Okay, thank you. We ready to move on to the next question? Okay, Mr. Johnson, this is for you again. Offer your views on the types of, if any, public transportation that should be offered in Somerville.
I'm all in favor of the public transit system in the Tri-County area. Why we don't have public transportation coming to Somerville and to Goose Creek in a Berkeley County is beyond me. There's a lot of people in our town, lower economic areas that don't have transportation. Their horizons could be broadened so much by having public transportation, and that mass transit would be one way of not only solving that problem, but also alleviating a little bit of the traffic problem in that area, in the area of Somerville, by having buses that could take you from Somerville to North Charleston, take you to the other side of Somerville to the Oak Brook area that they may not otherwise be able to get to. I see a lot of people walking around. Now, it could be for health reasons, could be for exercise, but when I see somebody out there walking at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm on the way to work, in a uniform because they can't find a job anywhere around their house, that has to be eliminated. And the safety, the public safety of them walking down the road at 5 o'clock in the morning is a shame. So I'm all in favor of the public mass transit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, the same question for you. Would you share your views if you have any to offer about public transportation?
Sure. We need more transportation, like to get to work type. A local bus to van pool. I'm currently meeting with the Charleston, Berkeley, Dorchester Council of Government, exploring the idea of Somerville having something like a jitney to run all the way from Oak Brook all the way up to Nexton to get people to work. In the Brownsville area that I mentioned earlier, you can see people early in the morning walking from Brownsville past Ulster Middle School, and then they get on Main Street and they walk on up to a hotel where they work or a restaurant where they work. And we're very concerned about that. The mayor and I have met with Council of Governments a number of times to deal with this issue. Now, we're trying to get a van pool currently in Somerville, which would allow someone who's a responsible driver with a clean record would get a van that could carry up to 15 passengers. And let's suppose you had 3 people working at Walmart, 2 working at one of the hotels, and a couple of them working at 30 seconds. Yes, I see it, Lo. Thanks. Yeah, I do think that that's something that we need. We're big enough to provide some transportation for people, and I think it will certainly help them. Somerville is the 7th largest city in the state, and we need to provide certain things that our citizens need. We were disappointed when Carter didn't bring that bus system all the way up to Somerville. They brought it only to Ladson, and we're still talking with the COG about eventually bringing that to Somerville.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you are next, Mr. Brown, with this question. What are your thoughts about limiting or expanding development in Somerville?
I think development needs to be managed. I think as long as the growth of the town can handle the development and it's not creating problems for us, and like increasing flooding and that sort of thing. And we are building the type of houses that people can afford to buy in relationship to affordable housing. I'm okay with development, but I think we need to we recently passed the Unified Development Ordinance, and then we went back and changed some things in it because we felt that it was too restrictive. But I do think that one of the things that we can do with larger developments, particularly commercial developments, like say apartment complexes, when we allow them to develop with a PUD, planned unit development, it's called a PUD, it gives the town more control as to how that development is going to turn out. For instance, we have a development right now that's coming on Highway 78. It's going to be a commercial development for condos or townhouses or whatever. They have not submitted to the town yet. But one of the concerns I have is that there's a large amount of trees may be displaced when that development is done. And so I think under a PUD, we can control the number of trees that's going to be cut. You know, Somerville is Tree City, USA, right? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Johnson, the same question. Please explain your views about limiting or expanding development.
I'm all for growth, but we need a responsible development agreement with builders. We haven't seen that here, which is why traffic has been so bad, honestly. I'm for a free and fair market, which does not include backdoor deals with developers. Giving special favors out to developers just so they can put their developments here would not be tolerated in most places. Because of the responsible development agreement, they would be held responsible. And in regards to the UDO, the Uniform Development Ordinance in town, in the last several months, the town council has seemed more bent determined to redline everything through it. It's almost as they want to get rid of the entire development ordinance so they can have their way with like the developers. I think the development UDO was good in its conception when Christine Zarnick was on the council as well. But they're redlining the part that they don't agree with. And I don't see any solutions to fixing that. Aaron Brown has had 20 years to address the issues going on in Somerville. And sadly, as much as I like Aaron, he has not done it in 20 years. Why should we give him 4 more years?
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Brown, would you may have a 60-second rebuttal.
Sure, thank you. I was listening to the comments of my opponent, and obviously he's scrapping for something to make him appeal to the voters. But a lot of the things he's saying really has no merit. For instance, he talked about the backdoor deals that the council is doing with developers. I don't know of any backdoor deals that we're doing. He also mentioned an employee that left the town as an administrator, and Rebecca Vance, and he talks about transparency. He doesn't even know what really occurred with that employee. He talks about a lot of things. And he mentioned the fact that I've been on council 20 years. But there's so many things that I've accomplished that maybe he's not even aware of. I outlined some of those things when I was talking about my chance to speak on the issues. But again,
Okay.
It's easy to cast stone, he who's without sin, the Reverend, cast the first stone, right?
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, Mr. Johnson, you want your 60-second rebuttal?
Yes. Rebecca didn't leave. She was terminated. And the only reason that was given was we don't feel like we could work with her anymore. I believe being upfront and honest, and sometimes it's detrimental. Somebody who's been in HR before, human resources, we shouldn't be setting our people up for failures. And I would like to give Mr. Brown an opportunity to fully explain why he terminated and voted to terminate Rebecca Vance's contract with the town. She didn't leave on her own will. She was fired, and she was asked to leave. Now, that's a hard swallow, being she was up in Myrtle Beach accepting the presidency of her association, which everybody in her association thought she was cream of the crop by being elected the first female president. Why then did the town council fire her? I would like to give Mr. Brown an opportunity to explain why he fired her.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. At this time, Mr. Brown, we're not allowing candidates to ask each other questions, and so perhaps there will be another instance when the two of y'all can answer that question, and you also have a chance to give us a wrap-up information. So if we can go with our last question and use your time however you see fit. Mr. Johnson, what do you hope to accomplish if you were elected?
what I hope to accomplish is by bringing faith back into our government. There's a lot of people in town who, frankly, are trying their best to get by with what they have. During this time of COVID, I'm fully vaccinated. My wife is fully vaccinated. And I believe that should be between you and your health provider. The pandemic has really hurt a lot of people. And I would like to bring tax relief to struggling businesses, to struggling families, attracting new businesses and cutting the business license fees, which is basically a tax for new businesses coming into town. I'd like to see it eliminated, where we can get fresh, young businesses to come into town and drive the revenues up for the town, because they are the lifeline of our community. It's not the major corporations. Yeah, they're nice, but if you want to be a bedroom community, you have to have bedroom businesses. And that's what I'm all about. Restoring faith in leadership is what it's all about. And I plan on doing just that.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Brown, how would you answer the question about what you hope to accomplish were you to be reelected?
One of the big issues that I'm concerned about is affordable housing. The second is transportation throughout the diaspora of the town to get people to work. I also think that I'd like to continue us having a reputation as a town where people get along and understand one another, where the police department is working with the citizens so that we don't have problems of police brutality. And the many years I've been on the town council, I don't remember but one instance of the Somerville Police Department using a gun. We've been fortunate to hire the right types of police chiefs who hired the right types of officers. And we recently, one of the things I would like to work on going forward, and we've already started it, is called the Dignity Project. And we got with some chaplains, and we formed this thing between citizens of all walks of life, white, black, old, poor, young, and the police department. And it's been a blessing because it keeps us from misunderstanding one another. We've got great communication. I'd like to also keep the communication going here in Somerville. That's been the blight of many cities where you have forces that are fighting one another. We've been able to avoid that on council because we work together and we work as a unit. I would hate to see someone come on the council as a newcomer and doesn't understand how things work and start turning the council around topsy-turvy.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to let Mr. Brown and Mr. Johnson take a breather for just a second while I go over some other information. We have appreciated you answering those questions and appreciate, again, you being a part of this candidate forum. Voters, I'm going to speak with you now. You should make a voting plan to vote on election day or early in person or by mail. If you need to request an absentee ballot, please contact the county election office. The number is 843-719-4056. For early voting times and locations, visit your county election office's website or the League's voting page or our website, which is lwvcharleston.org or vote411.org. To help citizens make the most informed vote, the League offers a nonpartisan voter's guide at www.vote411.org. You enter your home address on Vote 411 to learn about the candidates that you might be voting on and compare the candidates' response to some League questions. At Vote 411, you can also update your registration, find your polling place, and learn about any COVID-related voting changes. At this time, we are going to ask for a 60-second closing statement from each of the candidates. Mr. Johnson, you go first, please.
Before you start that, could I ask you something?
Who's that, Mr. Brown? Yes, sir.
The phone number that you gave is what county is that for the voters to get information?
This was given to me, a written statement. I would think it would be the Dorchester County. Is Somerville in Dorchester County?
Well, I'd like to publicize the number that we use.
Please do.
It's 843-832-0132. It's like a rhyme. 843-832-0132. 843-832-0132.
I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
I will repeat that at the end. That is most helpful information. And I apologize if we have given out an inaccurate phone number. Okay, Mr. Johnson, would you like to use your 60 seconds, please, to have a closing statement?
Yes. You know, the town is a great town, and it's a positive town. And I think all of its citizens can truly come together and have a great life, regardless of who they are. They just want a fair chance. They don't want a handout. You know, as a pastor, as a veteran, I believe in honesty and dignity. And I like to think that our people in the town have the same values. This is coming down to a choice between myself and my opponent. And I'm asking for your vote. You know, it's very simple. The character of the man determines the actions that they do. And I might not have not been on the council long or at all, but I think my character and my backgrounds really highlight what I can do for this town.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brown, your 60-second closing statement, please.
I love living in Somerville. I love serving Somerville as a council member. I love owning a business in Somerville. I'm a small businessman. I enjoy the parks and recreation and quality of life available to my family and friends and the residents of Somerville. I am proud of getting the Rollins Edwards Center on Hickory Street named for a deserving African-American veteran, and the naming of part of the old Holiday Inn Drive for another African-American. I am proud that I helped District 2 build Alston Middle School in Brownsville community in memory of a great educator, Miss Clemmy Bailey. I am proud to be associated with Mayor Ricky Waring and all the council members. Going forward, I will continue to love Somerville and work for Somerville as hard as I can. I'm also proud to be chairman of Public Safety of the Standing Committee of Council. The Dignity Project and all of that is great. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, we want to thank both of our candidates one more time. And if those of you who are video muted would like to join us at this time, we would welcome you to do so. We are going to also tell you that we encourage everyone here to study the issues carefully, to learn about the positions of each of these candidates, and to vote for the candidate of your choice on November the 2nd. So we have many thanks again to our Somerville Council District 1, Mr. Aaron Brown and Mr. Don Johnson. Please give them a warm virtual round of applause. Thank you, sirs. And we also would like to thank our co-sponsor for sponsoring this event. Along with the League of Women Voters of the Charleston area, it was the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce. So thank you again for attending. We appreciate your time, for being a public servant, willingness to serve, and for those of you who are online, your interest in making democracy work. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.